Jobs figures today. Let's start with the positive. 210,000 more people employed.
Good thing.
Compared to the previous month.
That's a good thing. But then this is where the Jekyll and Hyde nature of today's jobs report comes out. 210,000, yoo-hoo! Biggest increase ever in a month. All of it was part-time. Actually, the number of full-time jobs fell by 38,000, which is still, by any measure, that's a big fall in full-time employment. And ultimately, for the economy to grow, you need full-time employment to grow fairly strongly, because that's where big income growth comes out of.
So the Prime Minister actually seemed to put a positive sheen on this. He said, well, you're impacted by COVID-19, the economy shrunk. This means workers were either going to be in jobs or not, and employers, I should say, would have the option of saying, I can have one full-time worker or maybe two people do it part-time, so more people are in jobs.
Yep, that's one way to look at it. This is really...
It's impossible to know how many people did that, I suppose.
You don't know, but once you delve into it, you know that, right, there is a record number of people without a job. You're at 992,000. Yes, the country's a lot bigger. The number of people in the country is a lot larger than it was when the previous record of 960,000 was set in December 92. And you go, yep, that's right. But in December 92, the Keating government didn't have JobKeeper, which we know there are 230,000 people who were counted as employed but didn't do an hour's work.
So on that, what we're talking about here is, yes, we know JobKeeper is this wage subsidy. Employers get it, goes on to the employee. But in many of those cases, the employee is still working. They might be doing all of their hours or some of their hours. The point is, there's a job they're doing. They're attached. The attachment is real.
Except for the 230,000 who didn't work
so that's what we're saying.
Single
so there's
hour.
Another 230,000 there. This is the fear. How many of them are going to have a job? If they're not going back to any sort of job at all by June, are they going to be in a job by December?
That's right. That's that 230,000. Then there's all up. There's just under 1.2 million people who didn't get enough hours, including 130,000 who worked full-time, which is defined as more than 35 hours, but said, I didn't work enough hours. So you can see that it gets really murky once you delve into this area, that there's a lot of people still out there who are a long way short of either working but are still counted as employed, or they're working but they're not nearly enough for what they need or what they want. And the government is fully aware of that. This is why next week Frydenberg and Morrison and Cormann are going to release their review into JobKeeper, and then the decision that comes with the end of September.
Are they actually making it look worse than it is by saying there's an effective unemployment rate of 13.3%? And so wherever the figure lands in a few months, they'll say, here's where we said it was and here's where it is. How do they get to 13.3? And is that
part of it is expectation management, but part of it is also reality. So we go through it. There's the 992,000 unemployed, the 230,000 who didn't work an hour but still defined as employed. The total number of jobs is down still by 660,000 from where we're in February. There's 400,000 who've just cleared out of the labour force altogether, so they can't be counted as unemployed or employed. So you get somewhere between...
This is the participation rate.
You're getting into that space, so you're getting somewhere between 13, 15, 16%.
So you think 13.3 is a fair call?
It's a fair call. There's no reason... It's a recognition that, the government's policies are hiding a bit of the true extent of unemployment, but those policies, like JobKeeper, were aimed at keeping people attached and giving them a chance of having a job to come back to later in the year, particularly around September.
These figures are taken via survey in the first 2 weeks of June. So I'm trying to think exactly where we were at in terms of restrictions coming off at that stage.
Almost all of them had come off. You still had, say, the West Australians and the Prime Minister of that great new secessionist country blocking anyone coming in, and the international boundaries, but
they were just coming off, so
really
the full effects might not have washed through.
And then you'll get hit again by Victoria in the second, because the survey, in fact, for July has just been finished. It's through the first 2 weeks of July. So we know, and we actually saw payroll data this week, which showed in the last 2 weeks of June, there was a drop-off in the number, a slight drop-off, but a drop-off in the number of payroll jobs, which is slightly different to this. But So you could actually, and everyone is expecting unemployment to keep rising because that participation rate will come back up.
Yeah.
And so these people will come back and go, hold on, there's no job.
And these were people, again, because it's based on survey, do you have a job? And then are you looking for a job? Now, when that was asked in May or April and the market was just cooked and people had these support mechanisms in place, why would you be looking? It didn't mean they didn't want a job once there were jobs again. And that's the kind of slightly deceiving bit about the participation rate in this particular pandemic.
That's exactly right. And that is what happens with every recession. It's not just pandemics.
Right.
But a normal economic downturn,
it gets on
you see
participation rate falls. These subsidies in place. I mean, if you're getting JobKeeper, you're not going to go out and...
Well, for instance, you look at, say, Western Australia, where the unemployment rate was 8.7%. It's the highest there since '94, but their participation rate actually rose faster than anybody else's.
So that's actually the outlier for WA and SA when we look at those figures?
I haven't got into the participation rates of different... Like WA always, apart from, say, the ACT, has the highest participation rate in the country, partly because it's a slightly younger population, it skews that way. But it's contributed to this real big spike that they've seen there. And then you go, right, did WA and SA, they've got their tight borders still going. But you look at Queensland, the unemployment rate technically fell in Queensland, and it's still got... It's very reticent to let anyone with a New South Wales licence plate, let alone anybody else.
True, I mean, for now, they're still opening up a bit, and so tourism's a huge element of that economy. So.
And the other key thing is women and young people are still copping it. The number of full-time women in work is down much more than men, and youth unemployment's at 16.4. It's still really tough on those groups.
Shane Wright, thanks for your time.